Our lives have been torn apart. There's not 1 minute that goes by that I don't think about these boys. They are missed and loved more than any children in this world.
What could drive a mother to kill her own children? And how do we as a nation begin to heal after such a horrific crime? Today we're going to be joined live via satellite from Union, South Carolina, by friends of Susan and David Smith. We'll also be joined by residents of that small town now shaken by this huge tragedy. As we try to answer the questions, how could this have happened? And how do we explain this to our own children? Now that's something worth talking about right now, live from Los Angeles on Rolonda. Hello, everybody. We're coming to you live today from Los Angeles, and we think that today's show is a very, very important one. We're all trying to heal as a nation after this tragedy in Union, South Carolina. Since October 25th, the nation's attention has been focused on Union. We all held our breath, and each of us in our own way sent prayers and hope as we waited anxiously for word that little Michael and Alex Smith had been returned safely to their parents. 14-month-old Alex and 3-year-old Michael were only two of as many as 4,600 children reported abducted every year by non-family members in this country. Yet it was their disappearance which dominated national headlines. Maybe it was because the boys seemed to disappear into thin air in a community where that just does not happen. Or maybe we cared so much because we saw the estranged parents come together in their grief. Maybe this story captured our attention because these home videos made us all feel close to little Michael and Alex. Whatever the reason, for 9 days we waited and we watched and we hoped that that missing car would be found and the alleged kidnapper brought to justice. Then last Thursday the car was found, as was the horrible truth.
Susan Smith has been arrested and will be charged with 2 counts of murder in connection with the deaths of her children.
And now begins yet another family drama, one that will perhaps change the relationships of many young children with their parents for a long, long time to come, as children from all over the country have joined their parents in Union, South Carolina, to mourn the loss of 2 of their own. And perhaps some of those children are now wondering if all adults can be trusted all of the time. And the deaths of Michael and Alex have made parents aware that they can never reassure their children enough that they are safe and they are loved. How could a tragedy like this have happened, and how could a mother be accused of murdering her own children? We're all confused over this news. My first guests say they're just as shocked as the rest of us, especially since they grew up in Union, South Carolina, and they say they have known Susan Smith for years now. Please meet Stephen Barry and Jamie Knox. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for being here. This has been a lifelong friend of yours, Susan Smith. How are you dealing with the news?
I'm still in shock.
Still in shock?
Yeah, still in shock. She was a classmate in high school. Knew her in junior high. Spoke to her all the time. Her senior year, she was voted as most friendliest, you know.
Mm-hmm. She was a friendly lady? Or?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a shock when I tell people this, but if I had to pick a perfect wife and perfect mom of my kids, I picked her.
Really?
She was just the sweetest girl you'd ever want to meet.
You know, some of us were wondering if anybody had a clue. You know, even in hindsight, if you looked back, was there ever a clue? Was she ever in trouble? Did she ever say, I can't handle things? Or?
I don't think so, Rolonda. In high school, she was in the beta club, the math club, the silver tan club. She was on the yearbook staff, I think. She was mostly a teacher's pet, I think. She seemed like a wonderful person. Never raised a voice, never argued with anyone.
Mm-hmm. What about as a mother? Did you see her as a mother?
Yeah, I'd see her in Walmart, see her in the grocery store, talk to her. I mean, you never seen her kids not clean, not taken care of.
Always well dressed, you know.
I would think, is there a sense of betrayal?
Yeah, kinda. Really lost for words right now. It's hard to talk about this. But it's...
Brings you to tears, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay if grown men cry over something like this. I think you've seen a lot of men shedding tears down in Union.
Yes, ma'am.
It's got to be a tough situation.
Yes.
Do you have families yourself?
Yes, ma'am. I have a little girl that was the same age as the youngest boy.
And how has that changed your relationship? Has it changed your relationship with your own families, with your own children?
Yes, ma'am.
In what way?
It just makes me cherish her even more.
Brings us a little closer, I think, yeah.
Yeah. I know that we cry when we pull this show together. We sat, my producers and I sat around tables and sat around video editing bays, and we cried as we pulled this show together. And my senior producer, Marilyn, has a kid, and she said she's been holding her kid a little tighter, kissing the kid a little bit more, and I think some parents here were saying you've been doing the same thing. Down in Union, South Carolina, which is a town hall meeting situation down there, joining us live via satellite, are members of the community, many of whom were among the thousands who many of us saw going to the boy's funeral on Sunday. Many of them did not even know the Smith family. On the day that Susan Smith reported her children missing, she said that she was going to visit a man. We're going to talk about who that man was. Maybe you guys can help us understand who this mystery man is. But let me go down to Union right now. Tiffany Duncan is standing by. Hi, Tiffany.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay, as best I can. My question is, how are you doing? You were a friend of Susan who stood by her through this whole ordeal until the truth came out.
Yes, ma'am. We went to the university together here at USC Union, and we were close friends in high school. Her stepsister and I were real good friends. And just like the boys were saying, we never believed she'd do anything like this. I mean, we stood by her the whole way. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I kind of feel betrayed. I feel like she turned her back on everybody because everybody believed her. And we stood behind her the whole way, only to find out it was a lie.
When you found out that news, what did that do to your heart?
I mean, I don't want to judge her because it's not my place, but it makes me wonder how she could do that to two helpless little boys. I mean, they didn't ask to be born, much less to be killed, and I can't understand it.
You were a close friend. Did you get any idea that there was trouble in her life that might have led to something, anything like this? Was there any hint of a problem?
No, ma'am. When you always saw her, she was happy, you know, and the kids were happy also. There was just no clue that anything was going on. You never would have thought she would have did anything like this. It's been a surprise to a lot of people.
Tiffany, you spent time with her when the search was going on for those days on end. What was that like?
Ma'am, I didn't spend time with her then, but, you know, we kept close. I was up on Main Street just try to catch her every chance I got, but as far as spending time with her, I wasn't that closely involved during the search.
Mm-hmm. Tiffany, how has this changed your life?
I guess it just brings me to realize that, you know, kids are important, and I guess you need to take the love that everybody's experiencing now and place it on your own kids yourself. You know, they're important. It just makes me realize that if I ever have kids, you know, I don't know, it's been hard.
I know it has been hard for everybody. Thank you, Tiffany. We're going to get more reactions from Union, South Carolina when we come back.
Stand up there and do that for 9 days before she finally told the truth. I can't feel sorry for her right now.
He's a brutal murderer, but he's also the man of her dreams. Why some women fall in love with killers. Next, Rolonda. We're coming to you live today from Los Angeles. We are also connected via satellite to Union, South Carolina. And there sits Mayor Burton Williamson, mayor for the past 6 years. Mayor, welcome to the show today. I know this has been a tough time for you. How do you lead your community? What do you say to your community in grief and pain and anger and confusion?
I would say at this time that our people in our town they have been very upset and still are upset. We're very hurt by this situation, and the people are together, and I just hope and pray that we'll continue to be close and have unity with one another, which we have been that way for so many years. And the people in times like this, people pull together here in union and help one another, and we just pray for the family, because we know just that they are suffering very, very much, and we are so sad about this whole situation.
Mayor, I know that part of the grief has now turned to an awful lot of anger. We hear a lot of hatred from some of the people there. And I'm wondering if you're concerned about that. Are you taking measures to calm the anger and hatred?
Well, I don't feel like personally that we really have that much anger here in our city and county at this present time, because the people are pulling together and are together, and I don't see where we have any anger at all.
Okay. From our audience here in Los Angeles.
Hi, Rolonda. My name is Frank. It seems to me that this is just one more example of a lack of values in American society. You know, there are so many things now that are stranger than fiction. And here is a young girl. A lot of ladies aren't even married at her age. There are so many families, as you have said, who would adopt those kids. And something in her permitted this to be acceptable.
Right.
And it's just unfortunate.
Absolutely. I know that the reports are coming out, the latest. Psychiatrists and defense attorneys see Susan Smith as a woman whose confession shows compelling signs of mental illness. They're pointing to the fact that Smith's father committed suicide when she was a child, her marriage just out of high school, her upcoming divorce, news reports alleging she was sexually molested as a teenager. They're also bringing up postpartum depression. Miss Smith's lawyer, David Brooks, says he is considering an insanity defense for Miss Smith. My next guests say they are simply outraged. They say they're outraged that Susan Smith implicated one of their family members in this horrific tragedy. I want you to welcome Mitch Sinclair's family, his father Robert and his brother Jeffrey. I'd like to welcome you to the show today. Tell me, Mitch was named this Dear Jane letter that Susan Smith apparently had gotten. Were they involved, really?
No, ma'am.
Not involved?
No, ma'am.
How did it get to a point that they would find a letter saying, I can't be with you anymore, I can't handle raising 2 children, I want to break off this relationship?
That letter was written by somebody else, not him.
Not by Mitch? When you found out that Mitch, your son, was mentioned in this whole horrific mess, what was the first thing that your family, and how have you dealt with this, and how's the community dealt with you?
Well, we was all shocked, but like I say, Mitch Ray had a lot of people he knows, and a lot of them stood by him through all this. And he wants to thank everyone for that.
Nobody said, oh, you must be involved.
Oh, there's a bunch of them said that.
A lot of them said that.
Yeah.
How's he dealing with being accused by some members of his own community and all this?
He was hurt. He's still hurt.
What do you think of Susan Smith?
She was a nice person, you know. It's hard to believe she'd do something like this. Still hard to believe it now.
She said that she was on her way to see Mitch when she stopped by that lake.
She wasn't. She never come by there.
Never.
Mitch Ray was off with his girlfriend during that time.
Now, what kind of business do you own?
Oh, I do a roofing.
You own a big business there.
No, ma'am, not big.
Not big?
Nah.
Okay, so the word is that you're very wealthy.
Not hardly.
That you employ most of the people in union. That there was a Cinderella dream that Susan Smith had, that she was going to be with your son and her whole life was going to be taken care of.
That was someone else. It wasn't even my son.
It wasn't even your son?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
If I may say so, I think
Sure.
there's two different guys, and we're getting mixed up here. Conso Products is the guy you're talking about. I can't recall his name.
Family.
Yeah, Finley. Tom Finley.
Tom Finley.
Yeah, he's the
Okay.
guy. He's the guy you're talking about.
Yeah, you get confused with Mitchell.
Okay.
Mitchell's the guy she said she was on the way to see at the time she
Okay.
committed the crime.
Okay. So Mitchell, why wouldn't Mitchell come and speak?
Well, he he's still hurt. He was real good, close friends with them children, and David and Susan.
Okay, let's go back down to Union, South Carolina. Hello, sir. Go on.
Yes, I'd like to make a statement on the media. They reported an incident, you know, when Susan came to be arraigned, they said that the crowd was shouting at her family, you know, saying things, but the crowd wasn't shouting at her family. It was a girl that came out of the courthouse, I think it was her sister, and, you know, they mistaked her for Susan, and they did, you know, make comments towards her only because they thought it was Susan.
So, okay. All right. Many of us cannot forget the images of children that we saw at the funeral. Children placing tokens of remembrance in the lake where the little boys had drowned. Later in the show, we're going to discuss how we explain this tragedy to our own children. That's something every family could use as we continue this story. We'll be right back.
Hey, just want to pop in real quick and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for helping build this channel and this community. I could not do it without you. So good to stick with you. And listen, please subscribe and follow me in other forms of social media like Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever, there I am, at Rolonda Watts. So let's stay in touch and let's get back to the show.
You know, every once in a while, a story comes along that brings this nation together in celebration, as we did when rescue workers found baby Jessica, who'd fallen into a well. Or sometimes we come together in mourning, as in the case, the Smith case that we're discussing today. We're coming to you live from Los Angeles. And what you're seeing down in Union, South Carolina, is a town hall meeting. They're joining us. They're a community gripped in grief, a lot of anger, a lot of pain, a lot of confusion. Shirley is calling us from Alabama. Our phone lines are open. Hello, Shirley.
Hi, Rolonda. I have Mobile, Alabama, and the rest of the nation has been raped by this woman. She has just tore us up with what she's done. I guess there is the Susan Smith, and there's the Melinda Cantor, which was buried Monday from Wadesburg, North Carolina. She died trying to save her 3-year-old. Rolonda, I think that our number one goal here is our children. There has to be laws made to where when the child is reported missing immediately, because of the scenario of this case, we're going to have to start looking immediately at the parents. We're going to have to go into the home. We're going to have to be able to legally search and find something to try to help us save our children.
That's right, Shirley.
We may have to turn our teachers, into law enforcement agencies, but we've got to fight back somewhere, and our teachers are with them every day. They see these signs. There's bound to have been a sign here that somebody overlooked that's much smarter than I am that could point out. But I feel there has to be a change in our law, number one. Number two, I cannot feel sorry for anybody that would strap their 2 babies in their car and let them die. I just can't. I've lost 7 babies. I am a continuous aborter.
Shirley, we're right with you. I think you are echoing the voices of so many people across the nation, and I believe the law enforcement officials have said that when there is a missing case, that they must give a polygraph test to parents as soon as possible, and they are taking measures because of this case. Hello, down in Union, South Carolina. Join the conversation.
Yeah, I come from Columbia, South Carolina, and as a mother that's 23 years old with 3 children, I would like to say that we're all praying for the family and that we, as a community, have come together.
Take your time, sweetheart. We're all with you.
And I don't understand how something so tragic or how some mother with 2 beautiful babies could do something so terrible.
Yeah. I don't think any of us understand it. Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask a couple of young gentlemen a question. How did she show any type of signs before this incident happened?
No, not at all.
Okay, now you stated that you knew her through high school and college. Did she show any of those signs?
No, no.
Stephen,
it was just a total shock.
You dated her, Stephen, right?
Yeah, I went out with her.
Yeah, nothing strange at all. Stand up, please.
My question is, I would like to know why why were they so quick to believe that it was a black man when the compositive the sketch had white man features like it's covered over. I just want to know why they were so quick, because if that's my son, then they'll grab him and put him in jail for murdering 2 little white boys, and he didn't do it. I have compassion. I did pray for the family. I hate to sound anti-sensible, but I want to know why is this happening. It needs to stop.
Well, it was like this. I don't live maybe a half a mile from the abduction where it happened, and it's like right where that red light is. It's where black people hang out there, and a little bit up road, white people it's like hang out there. So that's where I believe that's where the story come from.
Okay. But I see what you're. I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Black men hang out all over the world. You guys have got to stop that country hick stuff all over the world. You know,
But wait a minute, we remember the case in Boston. It's all over. I mean, and there are many people who are concerned about black men coming across as the boogeymen of American society, and that is something. Well, we know that.
It's got to stop. I mean, I'm not here to argue. I have compassion for people, because if it happened to my kids, I would feel the same way. You know, but I just want to know, why were they so quick to believe it was a black man?
Well, first of all, Susan Smith said it was one.
You had to go by what she said. Well,
Hi,
everybody believed
Rolonda.
her at the time, you know.
That was all the information they have, and I would say that the union community is applauding Sheriff Wells for the way that he handled it. No, we don't like that particular scenario, but that was all the information they had to work on, and that came from the mother at that time.
Hi, Rolonda. My name is Robin. I don't want to see this turn into a racial issue. I mean, people wanted to believe that somebody kidnapped the children. You don't want to believe a mother sticks her kids in a car and drowns them in a lake. So, all right, she picked a black man, and that shows that her sensibilities are insulting to the black community. But that does not mean that the entire county, the entire city is racial. That doesn't mean the entire world is racial.
America needs to wake up. This has been happening throughout the years. One of my brothers about 10 years ago was accused of murder. It was put on the news. It was on the front page of the newspaper. He didn't do it. He's a dark-complected black guy, very, according to white America, threatening looking. But in essence, hopefully the next time a white person accuses a black person of doing something, they'll think about it. Maybe he didn't do it.
Okay. Yeah. I got to take a quick break. I'll have you comment when we get back. We also all remember Polly Klaas. We called her America's Child. That was another time that our nation came together, and we waited to hear of a child's safe return. Polly's father is going to join us next, and he certainly has some things to say about the Smith story. We'll be right back. Live from Los Angeles and Union, South Carolina, as we continue discussing the Susan Smith case. Yes, sir, you had something to say.
Yes, I'm a prosecutor here in the Los Angeles area, and I'm really concerned about the healing aspect of the racial black males being constantly charged with committing these, as you refer to, these boogeyman crimes. It makes it very difficult for me because so many of the blue-collar crimes are being committed by African-American men, but at the same time, when they're falsely accused, even though this issue is bigger than the race, we really have to be sensitive to it, because as a black man, that was the first thing that came to mind after, oh, this is horrible what happened to the kids. And then I thought about all those black men across the country, in Boston, in Philadelphia, here in Los Angeles, and now in South Carolina.
Well, let's talk to a man in South Carolina who was under question after this whole story broke. Doug Smith, how are you today? Tell me what happened to you when this case came out and they were looking for this phantom black man who kidnapped children. What happened to you?
Well, I was just falsely accused by the community, and first of all, I like to say that I'm very sensitive, and as far as on my behalf, I'm really not concerned about that at the present moment. I'm more concerned about the little boy, and my heart just goes out for them, and you know,
Doug,
that's what my mind is on.
There are people all across the country who continuously bring up the black man as the perpetrator idea. What do you say to people who are quick to bring that point up in the midst of this loss of 2 children?
It is a point, but you know, that's all the law enforcement had to go on. I mean, if they'd have went looking for a white man, that's like looking for a needle in a haystack. She said it was a black man. You know, I mean, that's one person's opinion, you know. I don't see nothing racial on that. I mean, she thought they'd believe the story. I mean, you know.
Okay. Thank you, Doug Smith. Yes, sir.
How you doing? Yeah, I have a question, for, not to change the subject, but this is about the insanity plea. I'm just curious, on the way to the show here today, I heard on the news that the attorney supposedly come out and say they're pleading for insanity.
Right.
Now, the insanity plea myself, I think it's the stupidest thing that the attorneys across the country have made up, because a lot of people, you know.
What do you think should happen?
Well, for one thing, she's committed the crimes, first-degree murder. She should get, gas chamber, have a fair trial and so forth. That's my opinion.
Yeah. They haven't talked about the death penalty. Nobody said they're bringing up the death penalty yet. Our next guest recently spent several days in Union, South Carolina, and knows all too well what it's like to lose a child. Mark Class, I'd like to welcome you here today. This has had to have been very difficult on you, to be in Union, to probably relive a lot of having lost Polly. How are you, what did you see when you were down in Union that you can tell us about?
Well, I saw a community, pardon me, I saw a community and a nation, in fact, that rose to the occasion. We've learned a lot of things about abduction in the last year. And all of the lessons that we've learned, I think, were played out very well. The community rose to the occasion and got very involved and volunteered and searched for the missing children. The media did what they had to do, and they kept putting those pictures out time after time after time. And the law enforcement, the sheriff, the state troopers, and the FBI all cooperated, and they all followed the various scenarios and investigated them simultaneously. So I think that although there was this tremendous betrayal by Susan Smith, that the United States of America and the town of Union, South Carolina absolutely rose to the occasion, were tremendous, and did everything they had to do.
The law enforcement officials encouraging authorities to immediately go for the polygraph test as soon as it's possible with parents, to assume guilt on the part of the family. Is that something that you agree with, that you...
Oh, absolutely. What they have to do, in fact, what law enforcement has to, first of all, look at the parents. They have to look at anybody that would have any kind of connection with the children whatsoever, and they also have to look at the stranger scenario. So what they're going to have to do is continually investigate all of those possibilities until they can start eliminating things. And the first thing that they can eliminate, obviously, is the family, and that's what they did in our case. I couldn't have gotten onto the polygraph fast enough, because there was nothing I wanted more than for them to get onto the right track and look for the abductor of my daughter. So I think that this is something that people will have to understand, that it's being done not in an accusatory manner. It's being done just as a means of eliminating the family as suspects, so that they can then get onto the business of finding the perpetrator.
When we come back, I want you to answer the question whether you think that this case, with the mother having betrayed everyone, if you think that that's going to hurt other missing children cases in the future. Also, as we ask the question, why would a mother take the lives of her own children? When we come back, a psychologist is going to try to explain to us what seems so unexplainable, and how you can talk to your own children after this.
For no reason.
He's a brutal murderer, but he's also the man of her dreams. Why some women fall in love with killers. Next, Rolonda.
When my youngin got up and said, "Mommy, I love you," I could have done nothing like this, nothing.
How do we explain this to our children? We're coming to you live from our studio in Los Angeles today, and from a town hall meeting in Union, South Carolina. Our phone lines are open. In fact, we have a caller, Clyde, from North Carolina. Hello, Clyde.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
The one issue that has not been brought up here, and especially bad problem in the Carolinas, and also it may be nationwide, no one has brought up the issue of custody in a case like this. Why was these children doing this divorce or separation automatically given to the mother? The judges are ordered to be gender blind and awarding custody. And this is true. The statistics will prove out that 85% of custody awards go to the mothers. And giving you an example, my own son is with a convicted murderer, known drug dealer, and linked to organized crime 5 days a week, according to the local Greensboro News and Record here. and I cannot get my son out because I would say the courts are father prejudiced.
Well, Clyde, when you said that, there were a lot of men in the audience shaking their heads. We don't really know why the children weren't given to the father. Those are things that we're going to find out as this story continues. Hello from Union, South Carolina. Yes.
Hello. I would like to say that my heart goes out to the family, and especially to the mother. Whatever caused her to do this thing, it had to be something devastating, and I feel that America should not judge because you never know when your time coming. But what I really want to say is there were some people talking about the race issue a few minutes ago, and everybody's saying that it's not a racial issue. Well, in Union, everything is kept quiet. I lost my job yesterday because of a statement that I made to news reporters, and they put it in the paper. And as a result of it, everybody on my job just went hysterical. The blacks and the whites are divided. And since I'm the one who made the statement, I'm the one who they was on the most.
What was your
There
statement?
are a lot of things that are covered up in this town that people are afraid to talk about because they fear that their job might be taken away from them, or it's a lot of different things that goes on, like all the supposed to be suicides of the black males this past year. About my son was given 20 years for rape, and he wasn't even proven guilty. He was just from New York, and they don't like Yankees down here. So it's a lot of things that are covered up, but people are afraid to come forth. But the reason I'm speaking out, because the only person I'm afraid of is God. But it is things that need looking into in Union County. There's a lot going on here. It's quiet, it looks sweet on the surface, but there's a lot of dirt.
Well, we're trying to find out more about the dirt with Susan Smith. We'll be right back in a minute.
Hey, Ro on the go here. Just wanted to drop in and say thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll subscribe to my channel and then go and enjoy all the other good stuff I'm doing in here. Some good stand-up comedy. There's some good advice from Auntie. There are podcasts. And, of course, some great Rolonda shows and wonderful moments behind the scenes of some of the many places I adventure. Like there's no telling where I'm going now. In the meantime, go back and enjoy the show. Let's get back to it and see what happens next.
Did you know that in the past 2 weeks alone, 3 mothers have been charged with either killing their children or conspiring with the men in their lives to do so? Over the past 12 years, there have been 32 cases of mothers killing their own children and blaming somebody or something else for their deaths.
Christina, be home soon.
This mother's plea sounds strangely familiar, doesn't it? She's Pauline Zile of Florida, who said her 7-year-old daughter, Christina Holt, disappeared from her restroom during a shopping trip on October 22nd. Posters went out and a community prayed. And when Christina's little body was discovered buried behind a department store, first her stepfather, then her mother, charged in her murder. The case is now before a grand jury. Then just last month, this 34-year-old mother blamed the stabbing murder of her 3 children, ages 4, 8, and 9, on her estranged husband. But after police checked out his alibi, they booked Dora Buenrestro on 3 counts of murder. And then there's the case that first brought this unspeakable crime into the public consciousness, Diane Downs. For several months in 1983, she tried to convince police that the shooting of her 3 children on a deserted Oregon road was the work of a bushy-haired stranger. She even had a gunshot wound to prove it, she said. It would turn out to be self-inflicted. A jury found Diane Downs guilty of killing 7-year-old Cheryl, paralyzing 4-year-old Danny, and wounding 8-year-old Christy, whose testimony helped convict her mother. As disgusted as you are, this is another face of our nation. As we say, it's something worth talking about. Pauline Zile, by the way, is due in a Fort Lauderdale court today as the state tries to take custody of her 2 sons. My next guest, Dr. Robert Butterworth, is a child psychologist. He says there are an assortment of reasons why some women kill their children. Dr. Butterworth, it's hard for us to understand this. Why in the world would a mother take the life of her own child?
You know, it's an issue that's probably one of the only issues left that we really haven't talked about. But when we study this issue around the world, we find that actually women kill their children more than men do. And it's because in many cases, in 2/3 of the cases studied around the world, we look at these women. Well, gee, Miss Smith was okay. The kids were clean. She didn't abuse the kids. The kids didn't have marks on her. What was wrong? 2/3 of the women that have this problem that kill their kids are depressed. Either they've been depressed for a long time, or all of a sudden something comes along, they're not themselves. The children are part of themselves. They don't kill themselves. They kill a part of themselves. External depression. They kill the children.
Is there something that we could notice as a community? Because I think after stories like this, we all start taking care of the children in a community, I would hope. Is there something that we could recognize before it got to this point?
I think as a result of this case, we're going to be looking at relationships between mommies and kids a little bit differently. I mean, if the child is, you know, the mother and they seem to get along and you know, the child's dressed okay and there's no history of abuse, I think before that was, oh gee, everything is okay. But I think we're going to look a little bit deeper, and we're going to look not at the relationship between the mother and the child, but how the mother gets along. If she's depressed, if she wakes up not feeling like she wants to live, if there's a history of suicide in the family.
What about mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, families? What do we tell the children in our families who are obviously watching this story? Down in Union, the children can't get away from that. They've gone to the funeral. They've put remembrance tokens into the lake. How do we explain this absurdity to our children?
And that is a question that we're hearing since this case all around America. Kids are coming up to their mommies and they're saying, "Mommy, is it safe? Are you going to hurt me?" I think if a child brings that up, the first question to ask the child is, what's going on in the family? Is there anything going on right now that makes you feel afraid in the home? If everything is okay and the child is still having fear, say, sure, I know we've told you that there are strangers out there you have to worry about. Well, sometimes they're not only strangers, but people that you love can hurt you. But we're not going to do it, and you have to reassure a child that even though there are bad things out there, things in the home are okay.
A lot of parents have been hugging their kids a lot more, doing a lot of more reassuring things. Would you advise that as well?
Yes, but I also think as a result of this case, kids that have parents that hurt them will now look and say, well, gee, not only can mommy or daddy hurt me, but maybe they could kill me, and I think we have to talk about what kids can do that are in danger.
Yes.
Yes, I'm Michelle, and I have a 6-month-old baby. And I'm not able to take care of it, so my mom's taking care of it. I feel pretty bad already. So it was really injustice for Susan Smith to have killed, you know, even though I went through the postpartum depression and
what you're saying is you had tough times, but you didn't resort to anything.
I even had a natural birth, which I never thought I would even get through.
What about women who are having a difficult time, who want to avoid going down a road like a Susan Smith allegedly did? What would you say to women who are in postpartum depression now?
What I would say is that, you know, how you're feeling, what's happening to you is not just affecting you, but affecting your children, and your moods and how you feel could have an ultimate effect on how your children are reared. But you know, there's another thing, and I'm getting really upset about it, and there's like a lynching mentality. We want to kill her. We don't want to hear about this. We want just to, let's get her, let's get rid of her, let's kill her, let's punish her, and let it go away. And I'm not saying she should get off. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is we have to have some sympathy for her. I don't think she did it and she was smiling. I think she's suffering. Maybe not for the same reasons that we thought when we saw her crying, but when she was crying real tears.
Also crying is David Smith, and our hearts certainly go out to the father. Sometimes just by sending a card or a note of encouragement, it helps us get through grieving times. We have an address where you can send cards and letters to David. That address is David Smith, Post Office Box 334, Union, South Carolina, 29379. We'll see you back here in just a minute.
This has not been a racial thing from the very start. It's not going to be one now, and we're going to direct it away from there. That's what we're here for tonight.
As we were talking about this story of Susan Smith perhaps does not hit people more than those in the nation who still have children missing. Janet Newman is a mother whose child is missing since this summer. She's 6 years old. Her name is Crystal. And Janet, you were saying that you wanted to speak to the nation today.
Yes. I feel so angry what she did. I mean, her pain was adding on to mine when I first heard this. And right now, it feels like a knife just stabbed me in the heart. And it's right now, I'm so scared because of what she's done is hurting us. And I don't care what it takes. I will seek justice for my child's suffering. I will fight. I will do whatever it takes to bring her back and to find what she's been through to make her disappear like this. It's really hard to live with this day after day. I can't even look at her picture. I can't even listen to a very sad song. I just break down. And I just don't think there's enough for these children. I agree. I'll do whatever it takes. If, you know, they need to help these children. They are people too. And I don't think there's enough for them.
Mark, do you think this is going to hurt cases like Janet's because of this news? Do you think that might affect the outcome of abducted or missing children?
Well, it could. I mean, it could make an already cynical society complacent when it comes to these missing children's cases, and I would warn people against that. I think we should look at the marvelous things that happened in this case, the way people reacted, and not turn our backs. Certainly cases of abduction are rare, but cases of parents killing their own children are even more rare. So we have to keep a perspective on this thing. Children have to be our #1 national priority. Crimes against children have to be eradicated. We have to protect these little people, and I think that what happens here is we have to empower children. What do we tell our children? We have to empower children, let them know that they can trust their own gut instincts, and that mommy and daddy aren't doing this, that there are people, there are bad widgets out there that are going to kill their own children, but it's not mommy and daddy. Mommy and daddy are protective and are very loving.
Okay. Down in Union, South Carolina. Hello, sir. Join the conversation, please.
Hello, Rolonda. My name is Jerry O. Adams from Shelby, North Carolina. My question goes to one of the ministers here in Union, South Carolina. Once there was a man who was a dreamer who said that we should not be judged by the content, by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. What do the ministers here in Union, South Carolina, and across the nation think that we as a people need to do so that we can realize that dream and stop blaming people for things we have not done because of the color of our skin?
I don't know if we have time to answer all that question. I think you might be able to change laws sometimes, but you can't always change attitudes. And I think we always have to start community by community by community. On the idea and on the thing that we were talking about with Janet here, if you want to report a missing child, or if you have any information on a child who is missing, please call this number, 1-800-843-5678. We'll be right back. I want to thank everybody on our panel for coming out today. I know this is a tough one. It's tough for all of us. I think we're all feeling the same thing, and I want to thank you all for being here today. Dr. Butterworth made a very important point. He said that if there are any children who are listening to this show who are afraid legitimately, talk to your teachers, your minister, a neighbor, and neighbors, teachers, ministers. We must take our children seriously if they come to us. We must help them. Reverend Raines down in Union, South Carolina. Reverend, if you could you just give us some words as we try to heal through all of this? Just some words that we as a nation need to keep in mind as we go through this horrific incident.
I believe that one of the things is, of course, to channel our emotion into a positive choice.